to a brand new episode of the Five Heart Podcast, brought to you by Coordination.com, part of the SB Nation Podcast Network. Thanks so much for joining us live on a Wednesday night. I'm your host, Greg Mahochko. Joining me, as always, by our founder, fearless leader, John Dan Johnston. John, let's just get it out there right now, top of the show, and not bury the lead. Who would have thought that the win against Iowa last Friday on Black Friday would be the least interesting thing that's happened to Nebraska football since Thanksgiving? Oh, buddy.
There's a, how do I start this? I mean, obviously, if you're just showing up to the show, you have to be aware that Mickey Joseph was arrested today for shit. I need to look at the headline. I have too many things going on at once. I'm trying to watch basketball. I'm trying to pull up everything. He was arrested for something that sounds unfucking believably horrible, which is strangulation and domestic assault. Third degree domestic assault, which, I don't think you can sugarcoat that and make it any. There's not like you could say, oh, it wasn't that big a deal or anything like that, because right now it looks like it's felony, or it's listed as a felony. And I don't know, a lot of times they charge you with a felony and then they plead you down or things like that.
Thanks, Blaine. We're talking about American football here right now.
I'm just going to say this. I'm not projecting. Well, I am projecting a little bit. I'm going to say this just about Mickey Joseph. As a guy that grew up with parents that, my dad was an alcoholic. My childhood was, my childhood was whatever I want to make of it. Sometimes it was terrible and sometimes it was the greatest thing ever. But there is this thing when you go through life, and honest to God, I had to deal with this for years. My mother was a wonderful mother at times, and then at other times, she could just cut me down in front of people and destroy me. And I grew up with this attitude that whenever people gave me compliments, I hated it because I wasn't used to it. And it took me years to get over this, honestly. Now I've learned to just say thank you to people, which sounds so simple to people, but it isn't. And what I'm getting at is this. There has been a lot of times in my life where I got to a point or I was doing successful, and it really made me nervous, and it really made me feel bad. And I just thought, I need to destroy myself because I don't deserve this. And I'm not saying that's what Mickey Joseph has done, but Jesus, everything was going well. I mean, we beat Iowa. We hired Matt Rhule. He looks like one of the best hires in the nation. Comparable to Luke Fickell at going to Wisconsin. And then we get the worst news possible about Mickey Joseph. We've all been sitting here wondering, is Mickey Joseph going to come back? Oh my God, if Mickey doesn't come back, is there going to be, is the half the team going to leave, or the recruits going to leave? Right. Well, all that fucking shit, all that shit is gone. I mean, none of that stuff matters anymore. You know what I mean? It's all been taken care of. We don't have to worry about a damn bit of any of it. So,
and it's just that fast, man. A snap of a fingers. It just goes to show it can all go away that fast, and we just don't know. The chat is booming already.
Yeah.
I can't keep up with reading it all. It's a lot of talk about, is it a felony, is it a misdemeanor? Look, that's all for people.
That's not up to us.
No, it's all for people in the situation. All we can do is we don't know. I don't know any of the situation. People there's a lot of I don't want to say allegations, but there's a lot of theories being talked around in the chat. So all we can do is,
No,
Daniel's on point here. This was no offense, Daniel. This is an accidental highlight of a comment, but he says, "Let the situation settle itself." That's all we can do. One thing at a time, and we just don't know. So
whether Mickey Joseph is what he's gonna happen to him with regards to coaching is kind of secondary now to everything else that's going on.
Absolutely.
So, you hope that his family is okay and his kids are going to be okay. And, ultimately Mickey Joseph is going to come back, be okay. I mean, if all of this proves out and he's found, this is something you really don't come back from. I mean, like a DUI, come on, I'm blanking on our former wide receivers coach, Kevin Williams.
Yes.
He had a DUI. I mean, you can come back to coaching from a DUI. You can make amends. People, look at you and go, okay, you haven't fucked up again. You're not being an idiot completely over and over and over. But a domestic assault is something I don't think that you really recover your career from, because everybody's going to look at you, so.
Well, I saw one thing in the comments that I do agree with. I can't highlight it. I mean, I could, but I'd have to scroll up. We don't know. Everything's we're all in speculation mode. Let's move on and talk about some of the other big, important, fun things in Nebraska athletics this week, John.
Oh, like what?
Well, I predicted a score of 31-17. And there were people on this chat last Wednesday night who were laughing. They thought that I was drinking Kool-Aid.
Yes.
I was only one score off. Really, when the final score was 24-18, 17. I guess it was 24-17. Regardless, I feel pretty vindicated. I'm going to pat myself on the back. We got the dub. There were a lot of naysayers last Wednesday night, John, and a lot of people, a lot of you commenters. I'm not throwing anybody particular under the bus because I don't have that good of a memory to remember exactly who, but a lot of you had more points for Iowa than you had for Nebraska, and we got the dub.
That is true. That is true. I said that if we made Iowa make mistakes, we'd win the game, and we actually made Iowa make mistakes, and it was kind of funny.
Thanks, Blaine. Blaine says, I have to give it to you, Greg. Would not have made that prediction. Well, I drink a very strong Kool-Aid, sir. Vanessa has a good question. What is our obsession with talking about Kool-Aid? Use it, particularly that term. Besides the fact, correct me if I'm wrong, John, and I only say this because you look like you lead one. But this goes back to one of the Colts from a few decades ago, right? Where everybody drank the Kool-Aid and everybody keeled over.
Yes.
So that's what it is.
Oh my God, these things together. Drinking the Kool-Aid goes back to the Jonestown cult. I mean, oh God. I wasn't asked. What was the guy's name? Jim Jones. Jim Jones was a cult leader. He took people to Jonestown. I want to say it's in Africa, or is it in South America? Anyway, he literally had a cult there. Things were closing in on him. He was going to be arrested. United States congressman went down there to check on citizens and stuff like that. And he literally served people, including their children, vats of Kool-Aid, and they killed them, like 900 people. I mean, it was terrible. So, like the human beings we are, we take the macabre, and Kool-Aid invented in Nebraska. When you say drinking the Kool-Aid, I mean, when you really look into the source of that, you're kind of like, oh, dear God. It's actually a very horrifying and terrible event. And,
we get a little bit of nuanced knowledge from Josh, who says Jonestown culture and Kool-Aid gets a bad rap. It wasn't Kool-Aid, it was Flavor Aid. So there you go.
Okay.
And here at the end,
thank God for that.
Right, terrible, just terrible. Is okay. Absolutely right. He says it wasn't the Kool-Aid, it was the cyanide that killed him. The funny thing is, there is a soft drink out there called Big Red. And why they don't have official ties to like they could be an official soft drink partner of the University of Nebraska.
Well, there are many Big Reds though.
There's only one.
Like Western Kentucky bizarre mascot guy is Big Red. We should take their mascot. We should just put him side Big Red, Little Red, and just have them both together. Okay, so we beat Iowa. Iowa, and it was rejoicing time, and it was funny. And the nicest thing, it's not just that we beat Iowa, but that we got a new coach, and Wisconsin got a new coach, and the Iowa fans are still stuck there with their shitty French team. Quite frankly, I mean, they don't really. The good news for them is they don't have to go get annihilated by Michigan in the Big Ten championship game. But they do still have to probably live with the fact that Kirk Ferentz and Brian Ferentz are going to be their coaches next year. And there's no way that I can see out of the hell for them. I mean, if Kirk Ferentz, you could say, well, he's going to retire. Okay, if he was going to retire, I would think they would have announced it by now or stepped down. If he does step down, does that mean Brian's going to be the head coach? God save him. And then, even if he does and he waits till December, the end of December, the beginning of January, I mean, all the coaches are kind of hired. So, Iowa's really screwed. And you know what? I want to say that I feel bad for him. In my most empathic, sympathetic moments, I do, but I really don't. I don't.
And they're in a, again, I want to preface this all by saying I don't feel bad for them either. This is a particular grave of their own doing. But they will, until Kirk decides he no longer wants to coach, they'll never move on. Like he's so ingrained in that program because of Gary Barta that he would probably have to go winless 2-3 years in a row. But to your point, I see a situation where the rest of the Big Ten West, and I'll try to be nice and say maybe with or without Northwestern on that, is going to start, I think, rising above Iowa. And I think it's going to, I'm not going to say they're going to be at the bottom of the West next year, but I think in the next 3-4 years, that you're not going to see the Hawkeyes in any type of contendership. I really don't. And this is not this is not out of respect that I say. This is just out of observation. I don't think Illinois is going anywhere. I think they'll only get better under Burt. Wisconsin, I feel, has an upward trajectory. We have an upward trajectory because we can't. I mean, I should knock on wood as I say this. We can't get much worse. And then there's always Minnesota, and PJ Fleck has them, at least holding steady, if not getting better. So I do feel like eventually, if something drastic doesn't change in Iowa City, that the rest of the Big Ten West is going to pass Iowa by.
Oh my God, I'm just lost.
It's a crazy. I'll tell you what.
You know what I'm shocked by? Somebody just said Northwestern fired some of their assistants. I kind of figured that at least Pat Fitzgerald would probably replace his defensive coordinator because that's just not working out for them. Let's see what else. The other thing I can't believe is that Indiana hasn't fired Tom Allen because Indiana was, well, let's face it. I mean, it's basketball season. Nobody would notice. They literally could have fired Tom Allen 2 days ago and somebody would have gone, did you send that out? No, I didn't send it out. It's basketball season. Who gives a shit? But I think the Big Ten West has been an embarrassment, to be honest with you. And I mean, Nebraska has been a big part of that embarrassment.
Read the comment.
Let's be honest. Cornhusker Corner, let's be honest. No one else in the Big Ten West is truly in a position to be great. Nebraska's just been slipping and teams have been getting off easy. That's true. People have been picking up wins against other teams that are really not very good. I think both Wisconsin and Nebraska, made the right moves. And we should see a lot of improvement with both those teams. Maybe we can be respectable next year.
Vanessa, with a comment full of empathy. She said it was actually pretty sad for Northwestern this year, especially sad we were their only win.
Yeah.
You talk about there's I think the common consensus, at least among Husker fans, was that Nebraska treated the Ireland trip like a bowl game. It was their bowl game. And maybe it was like that for Northwestern too. Maybe it was just the culmination of everything in the offseason. They had one game where they didn't play lights out. But, Nebraska helped them on onside kicks, things like that. And because of that, they were able to get the win across the pond. But yeah, talk about the start of the Husker curse, for opposing teams. You look at them, you look at Oklahoma, a few other examples there. But they, I'm sure they had so much optimism when they flew back from Dublin all the way back in August that the rest of their season just went to hell.
Yeah, it really did. I mean, they have a left tackle that's probably going to go in the top, the first round of the draft. Other than that, not much going on with Northwestern. So, okay, we beat Iowa, the Big Ten West. What about Matt Rhule? Is everybody all up to speed on Matt Rhule? Does everybody know everything about Matt Rhule? Pick some questions.
Take some questions?
Yeah, you might.
All right, let's start with Matt Rhule's coaching staff. Specifically, let's talk about his new strength coach. Logan Mason says Huskers' new strength coach puts Duvall to shame. Hope it translates to the field with the upgrade. Our strength and conditioning was the Achilles beyond our weakness at both lines. Good point from Logan. And this is an interesting... Go ahead.
I think that... Zach Duvall was kind of this guy that apparently didn't share a lot of information about what he was trying to do or what he was doing. And I don't think you can do that when you're in his position. Like it's some kind of secret fucking sorcery. It's strength and conditioning, for God's sakes. Maybe everybody has different attitudes about stuff that needs to be done, but I think it was pretty clear that it wasn't working. I was surprised that Dave Ellis was gone. Dave Ellis is a nutritionist that's been around. He helped in the 90s. He's done work in professional leagues. I really haven't looked at the assistant coaches we've hired yet. I keep waiting for everything to fill in, and then I'll go out and we have a long off season ahead of us to research and to hire private investigators and find out all we need to know about these people. That are going to be playing football because, apparently nobody did that in the last 4 fucking years we were playing football, bothered to report on anything they ever heard. They just played monkey to hear no evil, see no evil fucking shit. I'm kind of cranky, ain't I? Do I sound cranky? You know why that is?
Because you can't stay on top of all the damn news that's coming through.
Well, that's part of it. But the other, do you remember when you were young, Greg, and then football season would roll around and you'd been like screwing off all summer and you'd start lifting weights and your coach would go, okay, run a mile and a half or whatever the fuck it was, 2 miles, I can't remember. And then you go do that and you start lifting weights and you start beating each other up and your body'd be sore as hell.
No.
Okay, well, it hurt. It hurt a lot sometimes. And the problem is if you try to do that shit when you're 60, just try to work out and do stuff. It puts when you're 18, you thought it hurt. This hurts a hell of a lot more when you do this now. And God, I overdid it yesterday, and because I think I'm an idiot. Well, I am an idiot. That's why I overdid it. So my back and shoulders are, my neck. God, I sound like a whiny bastard, don't I? Okay.
So I've had this comment highlighted for a little while.
Oh.
I don't know if John's just been over here talking like he can't see it.
Ralph Dazis says, Nebraska and Wisconsin hired CEO coaches shunning homers Mickey, Joseph, and Leonard. Smart move, especially after Frost. Tomorrow I'm going to go to a customer site and meet with my Wisconsin guy, and I'm sure we're going to have a lot of stuff to say. He did tell me earlier this week that there were a lot of fans in Wisconsin that were very upset that Jim Leonhard wasn't picked, and I'll find out more about that tomorrow. But the funny thing is they were the same as we were. They were very upset with their athletic director. Why hadn't he named Jim Leonhard? Why was he waiting? Why was he taking his time with this coaching hire? And everybody wanted to know. And we were over here going insane. And I mean, I hate to say this in the way that I'm going to say it, but the honest to God truth is we avoided a complete disaster, which it's really shitty thinking of it that way, but it's the honest truth. That Mickey might have been named head coach and some of this stuff might have happened, and holy shit, that would have been an explosion. You would have looked at it and said, could we hit any rock bottom? Or yes, that would have been worse. And I mean, it's still really crappy news because I think I've done it. I've seen some videos where I've said Mickey Joseph was going to be successful no matter where he was, and that doesn't look too good right now.
We've got some.
Do we have somebody wreaking havoc? Is it the Huskers blow guy?
No, I don't care about that. I mean, idiots are going to have idiot opinions, so I'm not worried about that. But you mentioned rock bottom, and so did Blaine a little bit ago. Gents, do you think Nebraska has hit rock bottom? Is there nowhere to go from here but up? If the coaching search would have gone the other way, like if Mickey would have been selected and then this would have happened, rock bottom times 2,
yeah,
right? Because then, then you're looking, you got to start the search all over again, almost immediately, So, I would say we have probably been at our darkest point. You know what I mean? And
every time I want to say that, I go, no, we don't say that because some other shit will happen next. And something will happen. Every time last year we thought okay, this is the worst that could get. And then it wasn't.
I'll put that in for any, John, for you or anybody watching, listening, anybody who knows like a nurse, right? Especially like an ER nurse, and whenever someone like a rookie utters those fateful words of "Gosh, sure is quiet tonight," and then all the veterans look around and look at him or her and be like, "Well, you done it. Now the ER's about to get slammed or whatever." That's kind of what it is, right? It's you're talking yourself out of a bad situation or into a bad situation by thinking that you're not in a bad situation. Nebraska's been in a bad situation. I feel like, and I didn't watch all the press conference. They had it at the Hawks Champion Center, right? The big press conference, and I saw one of the pictures, and there was pyro, and I'm like, seems like an awful lot of production effort in introducing a new coach to a 4-8 football team.
Well, you want to make it fun.
I understand that to a point. I do. I understand that to a point, but at the same time, it's I don't know.
Yeah, listen, Greg, you got a guy that does that. What's he supposed to do? You look over there and go, no, you can't do it this time. No, you can't do it this time. No, you can't do it this time. He's like, fuck you, I'm blowing up your car. You know what I mean?
You mean you got
the pyro guy's got a pyro, and you have to give him an excuse to do something. Otherwise, it goes in bad ways.
That's a very good point. I'm glad we're doing it for the pyro guys.
Everybody has their part, and they must be used, and they must feel needed. So there's the guy. His press conference, did you watch his press conference? Because Todd didn't the other night. He was worthless to me about that.
No, I just mentioned I only caught bits and pieces.
Oh, my God. What the hell?
John, I've got a full-time job, man.
Oh yeah, that. I have a full-time job. I just don't have anything else to do. I don't have small children.
From home, right?
Well, sometimes. I'm going to go to a customer site tomorrow.
That should be fun for you.
Okay.
Well, do we want to talk about Matt Rhule, or do we want to laugh a little bit more at Iowa's expense? I'm fine with both.
Matt Rhule. I think. Yeah.
So are we done talking about Iowa?
Yeah, I mean, there's not much else there to say. Alex Padilla, their backup quarterback, went into the portal because it's like, why the fuck would I stay here anymore? Right. I think there's a lot of people that are like, oh, what players are Nebraska going to lose now? What players are going to go in the portal? I think it'll be interesting to see what other teams lose portal players because, let's face it, Purdue. Good God, Purdue is in the Big Ten title game for a very big reason, and that's because Iowa lost Charlie Jones last year. They lost two of their receivers to Purdue, who went to Purdue and did things where they got yards and they scored points and they did what we call production, and that's a big part of Purdue being in the Big Ten title game. So it'll be interesting to see who just runs away from that sinking ship. I guess that's the last thing I'd say about Iowa.
I echo some of the comments that I've highlighted and then moved on. Moved on from. Iowa does have bad corn. I'm just gonna say, ha ha, Iowa, you suck. I don't have anything fancy. It's just, I mean, if you think Nebraska's bad, boy, look at Iowa. So.
Sorry, I'm bouncing around here looking at what's going on out there.
I'll tell you what, the YouTube commenters are a little nutty tonight.
Yeah. Okay, 3:09 left in the first period. Nebraska is down to Boston College 33-28. I see that Derek Walker only has 2 points. And I don't know why that is because we're doing this instead of watching the game.
It's all my fault, folks. It is all my fault. I said, John, Wednesday night works better for me than Thursday night. And instead of putting his foot down and saying, you better figure out Thursday night, he said, okay.
Well, I figured we'd better talk about this right now. I thought maybe it was a good time to let it settle, but then I thought, let's just get into it and get the Mickey Joseph stuff out of the way. There's nothing really we can do about it. I will say this for a number of commenters. Stop blaming his wife. We don't know shit about their relationship. You reading into stuff that she has tweeted and maybe projecting your own relationships on it. Just stop doing that, okay? And let's move back on to Matt Rhule. Matt Rhule showed himself to be
announced the head coach of the Nebraska football team Saturday morning and officially, and he was introduced in grand fashion with arriving with athletic director Trev Alberts in a deluxe blacked out tinted window deluxe minivan that puts mine to shame, let me tell you. That happened on Monday. He was introduced in a very long, question and answer session. What my takeaways were is that, look, he's not going to come in here and bury the program. It's that's stupid. I mean, we're not. Let's be realistic, but he at least feigned appreciation and reverence for what Nebraska was. And I think set realistic expectations. He's like, look, we're probably not going to get back to the glory day, the promised land next year. It's going to take some time, but he's like, I'm very confident that Nebraska will come back. And that's, you know what I mean? Is that not? And he talked about, the commenters will know what I'm talking about. You appreciate his passion for offensive line play, and the comments that he made about, look, 9 times out of 10, the team with the better quarterback is going to win the game.
That was a good line. His
And
best line was the one about the line.
yes, 100%. And so, like, and you know what? I respected the blue suit. All right, I have one similar. I call it my Nebraska suit. It's got a very nice red lining on the inside. It's custom made, wheeling and dealing for the guy from the 618 here. But I I feel like he's going to take it seriously, and I feel like he's putting a staff around him that is going to elevate the program. You know what I mean?
The staff guys, I think he's bringing out. I know that we know the offensive coordinator is going to be Marcus Satterfield from South Carolina. Keep in mind, I've said this before. People don't like their offensive coordinators. They just don't. We're always hindsight people. We hate them when they line up in the shotgun on 4th and 1, whether they get it or not. Everybody hates that. So I think that, after, like I said, after the coaching settles down, I'll probably go out and try to find out more about the assistants rather than just, what you're going to see in Wikipedia or the papers, stuff like that. We'll go find some people that have worked with them or talked to them or dealt with them and have more to say on it later. But we got a defensive line coach whose nickname is Pot Roast. So, yeah, it sounds, at least it sounds good. Sounds like fun. Sounds like it's going to be a long time before we actually see anything happen. That's really what the sad part of this is.
The downside is that these changes always come at the end of the season, meaning we have a long off season again. I'm intrigued by the fact that it was announced on Saturday after he was introduced that he had offered his, I guess technically his first official scholarship offer to a kid. So, I mean, that's talk about waste no time, right?
Yeah, and I think we've heard that he likes to offer track guys, and that's who the first offer went. I don't know. I guess I think the big one that everybody's waiting to see what happens with is Malachi Coleman, the kid from Lincoln, who was a highly rated recruit. And again, all of this stuff is wait and see. We did spend so much time and effort, and honest to God, I mean, there were 22,000 people on the live stream on YouTube for Matt Rhule's his press conference, and the chat was just flying by, and there was so many and I was on there, and there were so many posts about Mickey. Are we going to find out what's going to happen with Mickey? And unfortunately now it's taken out of our hands. It's taken out of everybody's hands. It's a done deal. So all this worrying and all this fretting kind of was for nothing. So I can say this. We have a lot of football players on this team, and I'm guessing in the next few days, not necessarily even because of what's happened with Mickey Joseph or because we have a new coach, we're going to see a lot of guys transfer. And, Scott brought in for whatever reason, that other guy that we fired, brought in for whatever reason, wanted to have 150 people on the roster, which was, in hindsight, kind of really dumb. But all those guys are, at least 40 to 50 of those guys are going to leave just because it's too many people to have on a roster. So I wouldn't freak out about any of it. I don't mean to be really rude, but I'll be really blunt. They didn't win games. So, I mean, how many of them do you really want back? Casey Thompson, you want back. Trey Palmer's going to go to the NFL. You'd like to see the receivers and the running backs come back. A.J. Allen, bring him back, please. Ramir Johnson, love to see him back. Alante Brown, Marcus Washington. Vokalek's going to be gone because he's just he's a senior.
He's 43 years old.
We don't know who the defensive coordinator is yet. You guys are asking. I think that'll be a big key. I think the biggest shame, and I mentioned, some of you noted that I was on Corn Cray shows last night. I think the biggest key with losing Mickey Joseph was not just that, oh my God, it's Mickey Joseph and we loved him. I guess I shouldn't say that in past tense, like he's dead or something. But I think the biggest key to this is somebody needs to stay around that's going to be able to talk to Matt Rhule and the existing coaches that he's going to hire about who these kids are as people. Because you can't just. When I started coordination, I decided that I would read all I could about college football, and through the years, I have read way too many coach books and books about coaches. And I can tell you one thing that stands out to me about the ones that are successful and the ones that aren't. The ones that are successful are the ones that treat everyone the same, that they treat all of their players the same. They don't make excuses for stars. They don't give them rides. They don't, they don't get them out of like punishment, stuff like that. The bad ones are the ones that aren't great. They're the ones that do all sorts of shit that, oh, you don't have to do this because you're my star receiver. Oh, it's okay. And that's where you get in trouble. That's where you get Art Briles and 54 cases of sexual assault at Baylor. That's where Rick Neuheisel is not a coach anymore because he sucked at that. So what you want is a coach. What you want is a coach who understands all the personalities of the players. Right? We go back to Osborne so many times. That guy had specific staff members who would tell him this guy has a problem or that guy needs motivated in this way, stuff like that. So, I don't know, maybe Bill Bush will come back, and it'd be nice to see one coach at least stay that could ease him through that transition process.
High Mountain Guy says, guess this gonna have to be you, John. Step up and get it done. You've been volunteered for the role, for the position.
Volunteer?
Well, I mean, it's a paid volunteer. It's fine.
Okay.
I think Kingsley here has a good question, though.
Yeah.
Do you think a player could be that person? Like a captain? Like I was talking with a friend of the show, Josh, and we were talking about, names that guys who could step up and be, who's going to be, hell, maybe I talked to Josh, maybe I talked to you last week on the show. I don't know, I got a bad memory, but it's, it's like a Casey Thompson or a Garrett Nelson, and who's going to be that piece of glue that's going to, hold some of these guys and be able to, ferry some of this information.
I see people are saying Raiola. They are keeping Raiola. They can't keep him.
No, they're not keeping him. I think that was
my God.
That was sarcasm, are you familiar with
you think so?
Yeah.
You sure?
Come on.
They can't.
They can't.
I mean, my God, our offensive line couldn't recognize their fronts that they had to block. So it was terrible.
It was tragically bad. Not comically bad, which you can actually enjoy from time to time. It was tragically bad.
I mean, honestly, if you want to see guys leave that you don't want to leave, go ahead and keep Raiola and see how many of the offensive line go, fuck this shit, I'm not doing this anymore. And they get the hell out of there, and we don't recruit any. Because listen, here's the thing with Raiola. How many offensive linemen did we recruit since he's been here that actually showed up, did anything on the field whatsoever? We had 2 tackles. We had tackles. We had no tackles. We had a bunch of guys playing tackle that couldn't even play tackle. What the hell? How would you ever think that guy could stay and be an offensive line coach? If there's one thing if there's one thing I would just keep up with the whole there is no hope, fuck everything line, it would be if that Raiola guy stayed as our offensive line coach.
That's how you know that we're talk about being at rock bottom. Vanessa says, John, are you hungry? You're not yourself.
I actually
have a Snickers.
I will have a lozenge.
Oh. A very filling lozenge. Logan coming in with a tidbit of wisdom that Rhule did offer a lineman in the portal out of Rhode Island that could be promising. So
it's halftime. Nebraska is up 37-34 on Boston College.
Fantastic. And I've got to say this. I agree with John. I'm sorry, you're John. I agree with Josh. Red Ass John is the best John. Now, John, speaking of red, you're wearing a very nice red hoodie.
I am.
Where can someone find a hoodie like that?
They can go to cobbycorn.com and there's 15% off till December 11th.
15%
You know
off
what you
till
could
December
do?
11th.
Yeah, you could go to that and sign up for there's an email list thing you can sign up for it. I'll email discounts to people. Maybe I'll do a giveaway before Christmas. We should give something away for Christmas.
But coming back to your red ass, are you wearing matching bottoms tonight?
No, I am not.
Okay. Are you? I'm concerned you had to look down. Are you wearing bottoms tonight?
It's 17 degrees. Wait a minute. It's 16 degrees outside, so we don't
Folks.
keep our house that warm.
Folks, he can tell how cold it is by looking down. if he can't
I'm
see
looking
it,
at
it's
my
very
Apple
cold.
Watch, for God's sake.
Okay, sure. But let's talk about the merch because Sam Matney asked earlier in the show, the Coronation merch, is it true to size? He needs to know for some gifting.
True to size.
I mean, like,
What
is
is
it
that?
2X a true 2X? Is it does it run big? Does it run
I don't know. I get larges, and they're always larges. There's a sizing. A lot of those have sizing charts that I put in there, and you can look at the sizing charts.
Speaking of Sam,
You know what? I actually put up bandanas today, so you can buy a bandana for yourself or your pet.
we're going to get to a couple shout outs here real quick, but I was on Coronation, and I think I was working on the article from a couple nights ago, something like that, with the from John and Todd's Monday Night Therapy, and it was a picture from the merch store from copycorn.com, and it was the yoga pants. And my wife was walking by. I said, "Honey, what do you think? Get you some of these yoga pants?" And she very emphatically said no. So
What the hell?
she says she doesn't.
Of all the stories you tell, that's the one you pick.
I think what we need to do is all the Copycorn, all of the Copy designs are on white, and she doesn't wear white yoga pants. So if we put them on black, maybe we got to diversify our offering.
They're all over print designs is what it is. It's a different type of designing things. I'm still getting used to how this works. By the way, at halftime, Keisei Tominaga is 5 for 5 for field goals, 2 for 2 for 3-pointers, and 5 for 5 for 3 points, or for free throws, and he has 17 points. So he is hitting 100% of his shots. That is really nice to see. Derek Walker still only has, I don't see the minutes played, but Derek Walker is a huge part of this team, and I hope that he's not injured or anything again. I don't know what's going on with the game, but Walker needs to stay around through this whole season. Okay.
Vanessa is on board with what my wife said. No woman wants white yoga pants and do better. So maybe
is that true?
You're asking. I mean, I'm just reading what Vanessa said. I trust her opinion.
I'll tell you what, Vanessa, go to the Cobbycorn website, put your name in the subscription list, and I will email you for advice because I need some.
This is good.
Oh, okay. Good. Kingsley Gibson says Derek Walker 2 early fouls. Okay.
It's a. Well, I think Vanessa's just worked her way into a paid consultant position. So, a couple of quick shout outs. So we mentioned Sam, who asked about the Copycorn merch, but he also wanted you specifically. He says, "Hey John," not "Hey John and Greg." That's fine. Hey John, can you give a shout out to his favorite father, who is one of our regulars, living in Omaha, David Matney? John, please give him a shout out as only you can.
I appreciate both of you guys being here, the Matneys, because I know if my son showed up in this thing, it would just be constant abuse, and I'd probably have to block him. Either one of my sons would show up here, I'd probably have to block him for being abusive. So it's nice that you're here together.
It really is. And then I had a text message earlier in the evening from one of our Coronation staff, Mr. Patrick Gerhardt, who says, "A friend of mine from college in Colorado listens to the guys every week. Could we give a shout out to Dan Falter of Greeley? So, yes, we can. Hello, Dan. We're sorry you live in Colorado. Did you know that there are other states? Even if you moved north to Wyoming, you'd be better off than living in godforsaken Colorado. Colorado, worse than Kansas.
Wow. Okay, Corey Campbell's personnel scouting, Omar Hales. I was looking at the coaches to see if I knew anything about them. I don't know anything. We're going to have to look at them. Oh, my God.
Greg, can you give a shout out to my favorite author, John Dan Johnston? He's been dead but hasn't been to Europe or Paris. Great book. Get it on Kindle now. Yeah.
Wow,
Hi.
this is very nice.
Hi, John.
I guess Christmas is coming.
Christmas is coming. And Been Dead, Never Been to Europe makes a terrific stocking stuffer. And also,
there you go.
Manage Your Damage is available as well. John's sophomore effort. Not sophomoric as in sophomoric humor, but his encore to his authorship debut, which was Been Dead, Never Been to Europe. Please support John, the author, because if he makes enough money as an author, he doesn't have to make white yoga pants for women. And as we've learned, that's a no-no.
I'm going to go out and ask now about the whole white yoga pants thing. I don't know anything about fashion, so.
I mean, that's true.
So,
I've seen your do-rag of power. So. All right. Let's. Well, now wait a minute. Hold on. This is important.
What's
Vanessa
important?
wants to know, John, would you autograph her white yoga pants? This is dangerous.
It is dangerous.
I think you.
Yes,
answer
the answer is yes. I would autograph your white yoga pants.
All right, I'm gonna
just
play
going to
devil's
hell
advocate.
now, aren't I?
I'm gonna play the devil's advocate. Would you autograph them before they shipped?
Yes.
Okay.
That's normally how you do these things.
Sometimes it's not happened to me. That Blaine is right where I was thinking while she's wearing them. Sometimes you get a nice shirt, you get autographed. Anyway, all right, we should probably
Okay. You go back to sports.
Yes.
Now
do
you're
you
just.
remember
I'm going to hell now.
Do you remember when Nebraska beat Iowa last Friday? That was fantastic.
Yes, it was. Yet the bad thing is we have to wait months for another game, and the first game of next year will be in Minnesota.
Are you going?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just making sure. I mean, you didn't invite me, so.
Well, here's the thing with the next game being in Minnesota. I mean, we have talked. I've talked to Patrick a little bit about maybe we should get have some kind of meetup in Lincoln during baseball season. And then listen. Whenever Nebraska plays in Minnesota, the Minnesotans for Nebraska. I know some of the people that organize and run that. We typically all meet at the Mall of America the Friday night before the game. So I'm sure that they'll be doing that, next year when we start the season. So, Blaine.
You want me to? I saved that for later, but I'll highlight it now since we're already 49 minutes into this thing.
Blaine Cole from Japan says it's the end of an era. Best and worst memories of the last few years. I saw that the Omaha paper did some stuff about, best games or worst moments or things like that. And I thought, I just really want to forget this. I mean, for me personally, I've enjoyed, doing some of the coverage of this stuff. The being on the field in Minnesota. Put it this way. Being on the field in Minnesota and then seeing that video exploded was a huge shock. I mean, I never expected that to happen. I got, I got plenty of accolades and I got plenty of shit for it. So I guess that would be one of the. And the thing is I live in the Twin Cities, so they played it on the radio up here.
Did they?
I
really?
mean, they obviously, yeah. They.
Well,
my sons texted me. They played it on 93X, which is a hard rock station. Which I was like, wow, what the hell? I think they played it on one of the sports stations. They obviously had to bleep out parts of it, but that whole thing. I guess that would probably be the better moment. I mean, Nebraska. The thing is Nebraska winning the Big Ten under Will Bolt's first season. The COVID era was a real.
I'm pretty sure we're supposed to
football.
Football.
Why?
Because that's the era, specifically the Blues.
Okay.
That ended.
I mean, the worst memory is we didn't have a single signature win ever.
I know Blaine said every single score loss. Josh, I didn't highlight, but Josh said when they voted to not go to the bowl game, and I guess it was the COVID year 2020. I'm going to talk about, this is sad because this isn't even on the field, but the unbridled optimism we had 5 years ago now. When AP Coach of the Year was coming to Nebraska, he was coming home. Just the enthusiasm that we had. We were all united, and maybe there were a few naysayers in there who were saying, "Oh, it's too small of a staff." Obviously, they were right, but just that excitement that we had when the announcement was made, and Hoss and I were joking, probably right here on this show on the 5 Heart podcast at that time before we were in this particular format, the live format, obviously. But we're like, 2022 national championship will be down there in New Orleans. That was and David's with me. I appreciate the backup, but there was we were all doing that Vince McMahon strut when he said, hopefully the Big Ten's going to have to adapt to us. Now again, hindsight being 2020, we know none of that happened. But for that off season, I felt like we were going places. So
yeah,
I don't disagree with Matt. I do feel like Scott owes us all a 12-pack of recompense. So and Vanessa's saying, yeah, but we get to pick the beer. So no Busch Light. All right, everybody, across the board, we're making him buy craft micro brew, very expensive 12-pack beer because he can afford it. Remember, we paid him $7.5 million just to go away. So we get to pick the beer, and it's got to be expensive.
You know what I'm looking forward to most?
Sleep?
No, just forgetting all of this. Honestly, really. I mean, I've already tried to just... Here's the thing. With the brain injury part of my life, I really have to focus on what's important. And then everything else I purposely do not remember. I am really looking forward to the next few months and just fleshing all of the shit from the last 5 years out of my brain. So that when people next year go, "Hey, remember that time we lost that by 1 score to Michigan?" No, I won't. Because I'll have fucking taken those memories and just poop them out of my brain somewhere. They just go away because I don't have to think about that shit anymore.
There are a lot of ways or reasons why I envy you, John. First of all, nobody's a silver fox like you're a silver fox, and that's important. But how you relayed your processing of data, your internal process. I almost feel like you can select what to keep and what not for some reason, and it's not on purpose. But like so much of my, I auto eject so much of this stuff that I take in. So I don't know. It's the Scott Frost era it's forever etched in stone, but I'm ready to move on. We've got Matt Rhule. We've got a guy who sure as hell sounds competent in front of a microphone, and that's kind of refreshing. And I guess let's take the end of the show in that kind of positive direction. He can now. Is this an automatic, coach of the year type of skill? Probably not, but he's good with the microphone, good in front of the crowd and the media. I've been pinning a few messages here, so I do want to get to them. Let's see here. Mike Corrigan said, Rhule said to the team when he met with them, "You did not choose me," and Rhule will fashion his offense to work with what is here now. That is also new. We haven't seen that. I mean, it's a new concept for Nebraska because we haven't seen it. I feel like for the last 15 years, maybe longer, we've tried to shoehorn a scheme into the personnel that's here, rather than building a scheme around the talent that you have. So, John, your thoughts just on this new approach to coaching?
Well, he did say that. I mean, he said he was going to fashion his offense around the players he had as he transitions to getting his players. It just sounds like it would be dumb to do otherwise, to be honest with you. I mean, you never get the players you want. And he also said, he said, when you take the three things, let's take three of those things he said together. Okay, number one, he said stuff about the offensive line. You have to win with the lines are the most important aspect of football, right? He said that. He said the team with the best quarterback generally wins. And then he said, I'm going to change my offense to fit the players I have. So those three things kind of indicate that he's around fundamental football. That doesn't mean necessarily run the ball all the time or just do smash mouth stuff like Mark D'Antonio did at Michigan State, if you remember that offense. But I do think it'll be interesting to see what he does. But I think it gives you a clue as to what is important to him to win. So I brought this up last night.
I think
I think this is key. There's one thing that is very key about a coach that's going to win. I said earlier that the best coaches recognize that they have to treat everybody the same. I think one of the other, oh my God, it just flew out of my head. What the hell was I going to say? Change is important. Okay, coaches that are willing to change throughout their process, those guys are the ones that are generally going to be the better coaches. You looked at Tom Osborne. Tom Osborne kept going down to Florida and getting his ass kicked. He changed the defense from a 5-2 to a 4-3. They made changes to the offensive blocking scheme so that their running game is even better. But he recognized he had to change, right? He originally started doing like the option to compete with the wishbone stuff from Oklahoma. So the guy was constantly changing what he was going to do. Matt Rhule, I think, went through a few offensive coordinators at Carolina Panthers before he was maybe going to find one that worked. I don't know. I've heard that Carolina, he wasn't really the problem and that the owner was the problem. It's kind of like the Detroit Lions. Are they ever going to be good? But I think you compare that to like Bo Pelini. If you remember, Bo Pelini kept getting blown out, and then some guy in the media go, well, do you think your defense is a problem? And he constantly said, no, my defense isn't a problem. Well, yeah, it fucking was. You wouldn't change it. And it kept getting destroyed. And, if you don't recognize you need to change what you're doing or at least look at it and evaluate yourself from an unbiased position, you're not going to get any better. That goes for everything, So I think that's going to be important to see where Matt Rhule can be able to adjust to his players and then adjust to see, when he looks at guys and says, okay, my quarterback can throw really good outs and really good slants, but he can't throw 30 yards down the field that well. Okay, let's change what we're doing. So, I don't know. Here's something amazing. Maybe if you don't have two offensive tackles that can block, you always have an outlet or you run more screens. Good God. Anyway.
Let's move on to some more of these pinned comments. Ralph said earlier in the show, the Athletic sports writer Stuart Mandel. By the way, as I'm reading this, I realize I'm no longer visible, which is probably happy for everybody. Updates the Big Ten best coaches. It's got Jim Harbaugh at Michigan at number 1, Ryan Day at Ohio State number 2, Luke Fickell coming into the conference as the third best coach in the conference at Wisconsin, James Franklin, then Matt Rhule, the new addition at Nebraska number 5, Jeff Brom, Kirk Ferentz, Bert Bielema at number 8, and then I can't see any more of the comment, and neither can you. But there are other coaches. I think it said PJ Fleck number 10. Let's see. Here we go. I can read it, but you can't. So my apologies to you all. We've got Kirk Ferentz at 7, Bert at 8, PJ Fleck at number 9, Mel Tucker number 10, Pat Fitzgerald number 11, Mike Loxley Maryland number 12, Greg Schiano at Rutgers number 13, and then Tom Allen at the bottom of the barrel. So
I think Luke Fickell, I wouldn't disagree with Stuart Mandel. I think he's right more than he's wrong, but I think Wisconsin, I think what will be interesting to watch at Wisconsin is if they limit him. Because we look at Tom Osborne a lot and we go, okay, is he interfering? And he always goes, well, I'm not going to interfere. And, well, bullshit, whatever. Even just by saying stuff and even talking, you're influencing what's going on because people still want to hear from you. Okay, you look at that influence, and then you look at Wisconsin with Barry Alvarez, and you kind of go, okay, is Grandpa still dictating what you're going to run for an offense? Because you look at all their coaches. Gary Anderson got up and left one time. Paul Chryst decided to be fired in the middle of a season. And I think the AD did fire him, but he kind of was like, what are you doing, Paul? Well, just fucking fire me, you asshole. I think that's kind of how that went down. But I think Wisconsin, Bert left, Brett Bielema left because they wouldn't give him money for assistants. So I think Wisconsin is going to be, are they really going to take the shackles off their football program, or are they going to limit him? So that's where Luke Fickell is for me. All right.
I've got kind of back-to-back questions here from two different commenters I want to flash up on the screen here. Andrew said earlier, as an outsider, I'm curious, what is the end goal with Matt Rhule in the next 5 years? But before we answer that, Mike, with a similar question, I think, says, do you think Nebraska will give a coach long enough for a rebuild? It said, it took 7 years for Harbaugh to win the game. So will we have the patience? And I'm not saying that Michigan and Nebraska were in similar positions. I don't think they were. Michigan was fairly consistently winning games and going to bowls with the big, one that he couldn't win, which was until, this past Saturday being the game against Ohio State. So we're not entirely comparing apples and apples here, but I do feel that if Rhule can get the team winning games, being competitive, being bowl eligible, and competing for the West, then, if it takes 6, maybe 7 years to win the conference, that's, and I know we're heading in a direction where the Big Ten's moving to pods and not division. So, forgive me for my, soon to be outdated terminology. But if we're consistently, if we get to, in a couple of years, we're winning bowl games, then a couple of years after that, we're 9, 10, 11 wins a year, I think there's going to be a long leash. I don't think unlike Harbaugh and Michigan, Nebraska doesn't have a game that they, because we don't have a rival that we hate and we got to win this game every year. We're at a point where we just need to start winning games with great frequency, kind of a lot, So there's not that pressure to make sure that you can win all these games, but if you lose the one, you're out on your ass. There's not that pressure at Nebraska. It's win as many games as you can every year, and then contend for the conference championship.
I'll tell you what happens in year 5 of Matt Rhule. Here's what's going to happen. In year 3, we're going to start competing for the Big Ten title. Year 4, we're going to be very, very good, and we're going to start being in the college football playoff. In year 5, we're going to start out so good that other states want to become part of Nebraska. And instead of having to invade them and take them over and make them like Nebraska, like you would as a normal conqueror, we will just like look at Kansas and say, yeah, fuck you. You can't. We're not going to let you be part of Nebraska. Colorado, they got mountains. We'd love to have mountains in Nebraska. You can be part of Nebraska, but a half of your citizens have to move. And of course, we'd take both of the Dakotas. By God, they have the nukes. And when it comes to Iowa, I mean, we're going to look at Iowa and go, and then it's going to have to go up for a vote because, we'll have to actually let people that are, citizens of the expanding state of Nebraska choose whether or not they want to have Iowa join the expanding empire of Nebraska. And that's how good Matt Rhule is going to be by year 5.
I think as we're going around and we, what's the word in like medieval times when you took over a rival kingdom or something and you I don't know, you acclimate them to your whatever it is. We surround Iowa, so we have both the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Missouri, Kansas, and then it's all this red, and in this one little speck of Iowa crap. Annexation. Thank you, Owen Walker. Send that man some pipeline jerky today. Yes, we annex all the states around Iowa, and this is great. That'd be the way to do it. I don't know where I was going with that. I like every bit of conquering our surrounding states.
Yeah.
Growing the footprint, growing the pipeline, growing the talent pool. No longer would 500-mile radius be around Lincoln, Nebraska. Nay. Because when we annex the likes of Illinois, we would have a 500-mile radius from Chicago. When we annexed Colorado, we'd have a 500-mile radius from Denver. Just saying. Anything's possible when you annex the Midwest. All right.
Oh my God.
Couple more pin things here, and then we want to talk about the conference championship this weekend. No offense, Josh. I think we're gonna skip your question about the governor's involvement because I don't know anything about that.
Oh wait, you know what? You guys need to remember this. Jim Pillen was a regent, right? So the governor of Nebraska was a regent previously to becoming governor. I think it's going to be interesting to see what influence or how he treats the University of Nebraska going forward from here. I'll just make that comment. I don't know a lot about him, but the honest to God truth is I get email alerts from the Lincoln Journal-Star. I probably get more news out of Nebraska than I do out of Minnesota. 14-13 left. Nebraska is up by 10, 46-36. Boston College has made only 2 points in the second half. The other thing I will say, and this is serious, is USC and UCLA are going to join our conference. I think our attitudes about what makes a winning season are going to have to change in the next few years, where we look at 9-3 and we go, that was a very successful season, because I think all of college football will probably get more competitive. I think if the whole let's stack players on a team continues, I think that something would have to happen there. I don't know. It'd be boring. I'm guessing it will. I'll think about it. Remind me to come up with that topic off season or something.
That's a good off season topic. Because then if we annex California, 500-mile radius from Los Angeles, we can go get Aquaman finally. So, all right, let's get to this long pinned message from Vanessa. Can we talk about Michigan Purdue, or did we have not? We hadn't gotten that far yet. So Yeah, that didn't mean to hide that. Yeah, I mean, conference championship game. Look, let's call it what it is. Michigan tuning up for the playoff. Purdue not standing a chance.
Yeah, Aiden O'Connell apparently, I think, he lost his brother and still went and played in
That's
that
true.
game to get them to the Big Ten title game. That's a lot of fortitude for a kid. I mean, hats off to that guy. I think that if I was Purdue, I would constantly run. Michigan has to do something about Charlie Jones. I think Purdue's defensive line can stand up to Michigan for a while, but Purdue is going to have to keep them. Purdue's going to have to score points to keep up with them because I don't think that Michigan will big play them to death as much as they did Ohio State, which was very shocking. But I think that also Michigan is going to have to do something about Charlie Jones with that comeback route where he constantly picks up first downs. And if you're Purdue, you go into this game with two attitudes. You go in and you say, we're not going to turn the ball over. We're going to protect the ball as much as we can. Obviously, that's true for every game. But secondly, we're just going to try to make first downs and keep Michigan's offense off the field. Because what happened recently? Oh, come on, last few days. Cade McNamara entered the transfer portal. Right? So J.J. McCarthy, I think that's the guy's name, is their starting quarterback. And he's been playing very well and he's very good. But if anything happens to that guy, now what happens? I don't know if Cade McNamara is entering the transfer portal after this game or before it, but he's not going to be there. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. The honest to God truth is Michigan should just absolutely, completely destroy Purdue. But, will they? I don't know. Joel Tilson makes a good point. Michigan will wear out Purdue in the second half. I mean, Michigan has been just an ass-kicking second half team all year long. Okay. Greg, I talked enough.
I was just, geez. Our friends at Cornhusker Corner, and I only say that because I feel like Cornhusker Corner would be a good bar somewhere or a nice little shop where you can get some knickknacks and some tchotchkes. But it says Purdue's the one team in the West that's built to sort of make things interesting against Michigan. That being said, Cornhusker Corner has Michigan by 35. You're right. The common thread throughout the comments here has been Michigan just wearing them down in the second half, and it becoming a one-sided affair after halftime.
You know what the other interesting news was today, Greg? The news that Ohio State said that they don't want to go to the Rose Bowl. If they don't get into the college football playoff, they do not want to go to the Rose Bowl, and the Rose Bowl can have Penn State instead. This is a Big Ten team, the biggest name in the Big Ten, arguably, and they're saying no to the Rose Bowl. Yes, Greg.
Do you think that people are finally realizing that the Rose Bowl is overrated?
I don't think we can say that as a Big Ten thing. It's against the law.
That's what I'm saying, though. Like, our basketball writer Kevin Knight would I was going to say something bad, but it's very bad and untimely. But I will say that the Rose Bowl experience, I don't think is like the Big Ten, the conference's ties to the Rose Bowl and how it prioritizes that. I don't like. Here's the thing: if I'm Ohio State, would I rather be in the college football playoff? Yes, but there does have a certain amount of prestige with the Rose Bowl. What would they rather do? Like what? If they don't go to the Rose Bowl in this college football, or if it's not the college football playoff, it's not the Rose Bowl, where are they going to go to? Like the Yankee Stadium Pinstripe Bowl, like the Nashville Music City? Like, I don't know. Why would you? This is what frustrates me with that 2020 decision by Nebraska to not go to the bowl game. Is like, why would you short yourself the opportunity? You're going to go
Right.
to a lesser bowl. You're going to go so you don't have to travel as far. Like, no, go to Pasadena. It's fine. I've been to the Rose Bowl, not the game, but I've been to the stadium. I was there in 2012 when UCLA beat Nebraska. It's still a very sad moment in my life, but it was a very beautiful backdrop for college football.
Jason, you've been there to the Rose Bowl?
I was there in 2012. My wife and I went out there. We centered a San Diego Los Angeles vacation around Nebraska UCLA in Pasadena. Yeah. She agreed to that.
Not.
So
Jason Ron says the Rose Bowl voted yesterday to expand the playoffs to 12. There's just so much stuff happens just while you're doing a live show, for God's sakes. Everything should slow down. Slow down everything. Just stop. Oh, my God.
well, let's button up this thing. Ralph, as far as predictions for Saturday, I guess if you have a prediction for the Big Ten Conference Championship game, throw it in the comments right now. We'll get to Ralph's because he's got a score prediction. Josh, I don't disagree with, says just hope all four top four teams. Gotta phrase that one a little bit better. About to make me see double there. He wants all of them to win, so we don't have a 2-loss Bama in the playoff. Couldn't agree more. Done with Alabama, kind of forever. So let's see if we can. Now, Vanessa, we were getting along so well. You stop that, Vanessa. No. Jeez, we had a nice show. We had a nice evening. All things, from today.
The whole thing about white yoga pants gets thrown out the window now.
Yeah. And now what? You know what? Now, Vanessa, your beer, courtesy of Scott Frost, is Natty Light, because that's what they drink in Tallahassee. Tuscaloosa.
Okay.
Jeez. We need to end the show because I'm dying. Josh says 42-17 Michigan. Phil says me chicken 45 Purdue 21. Joel says 38-10 Michigan. And Vanessa says that she was trolling me by saying Roll Tide. So it's been a long day. You can't do that to us this late in the night. And Ralph said 52 Michigan, Purdue 33. All right. High Mountain Guy says that you wear the white yoga pants, John. And
I have a white dog. So if I wear black stuff and it just, it falls on the floor, bam, it's white.
He's got a white hog too. That's what Mrs. Coronation said.
Wow.
All right.
9:48 left, 58-38. Nebraska has given up a whole 4 points in the second half of this game so far. I will say this about change. If you're looking at the basketball team and saying, Fred Hoiberg, is he going to survive this year? I don't know. But I think one thing that Fred Hoiberg has done is he's recognized that he has to change what he's been doing. And we might see that this year as an example of him changing how he's playing in the Big Ten and changing how his team is playing offense and stuff like that. So I think that'll be very exciting. We'll just see what happens with basketball. I would like them to see them do decently. So Cornhusker Fever says 24-4 run. Good for us.
All right. John, you have a prediction for Saturday's Big Ten Conference Championship?
No, I'd probably go. You know what? The guy who said 42-17 is probably about right. 42-21, someone in there.
I go.
They do have that Maccabee kid. The kid that nobody wants to tackle because his arms and elbows and his knees are flying all over the place. So it won't help that much.
You were going somewhere with that.
Yeah.
I'll split the difference. I'll say Michigan 45 and Purdue 24.
Yeah.
And find out. Look, some people chimed in late, with some Mickey Joseph comments. We're not going to rehash everything. Check out the recording. You can find this video recording on YouTube. You can check out the audio Friday morning when the podcast drops. We talked about the Mickey Joseph situation all at the top of the show. We just kind of got into it, got out of it as quick as we could. So that'll do it, I think, for this episode. John, gosh, we've gone almost an hour and a half. That's an hour and a half of your life, and I'm grateful for that you share it with me, share it with all of us. We thank John. We thank all of you watching, commenting, participating in this conversation, and making this show what it is. Thank you all on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening. Thank you for all of your feedback. You're great. My name is Greg Mahachko. That's John Dam Johnston. This is the 5 Heart Podcast, where we remind you each and every week, and maybe just a little bit extra today, 5 Heart is all the heart you need. John?
Go Big Red. Go watch basketball, I think, on ESPN something. I don't know what's on. It's on the ACC Big Ten Challenge. You'd think I'd look at my own website and know this because there's a game thread up. But, God, that would require, some actual planning or something, or being... God dang it. I should have just said goodbye, shouldn't I? Okay, goodbye. Go Big Red. The ESPNU. The game's on ESPNU. I am always a pain in your ass, aren't I?
Good night, everyone.